do say thanks for coming. We, as a neighborhood group, we've been together for like 15 years, and we listen to what the neighborhood has to say, and we try to act on that and put together things that, where people can be informed and learn. And, so many times, other places I've lived, they don't have the opportunities like we do here, so we can get involved. So I know the homeless thing is a big issue. I hear that all the time. It seems to be getting worse. And I think we've got a great panel here tonight, so.
Okay, we have a list of everyone, do we? I believe right here.
Yes.
Okay. We need my spectacles for this one at this stage in life. I'm not sure they're in the same order here as they are sitting down. Austin Horn. Okay, Austin is with Family Services at the Piedmont. Bernita Sims. Bernita is with WRLP. And then we have Arel Henry. Arel is with Open Door Ministries. We've done just an story with you guys very recently. And then Anina Wilson is with the city. I think we're missing. Do we not have one on our list here?
Dan, he's on there in the black right there.
Oh, it is in a different. It's in marker. Dan Hodgson is with the Acts Ministry.
Yep.
I assume both of you are nonprofits in the region, right? There's more to get through than we could ever possibly get through in a single night. So let's get right to sort of the basics, so we can talk about the possible solutions. You would think that after all the years working with this, we have a pretty good idea of what's causing it. And I think to some degree we do. Who wants to take a crack at, beyond the obvious, or what are the overwhelming causes of this situation?
I'll take it.
Okay, Brady?
I am the Executive Director of Welfare Reform Liaison Project. We are Guilford County's Community Action Agency, and I'm also the chair of the Continuum of Care, which is an organization. If I stand up, will it be better?
You'll bring it back.
He's bringing your mic.
I am also the executive director of Welfare Reform Liaison Project, and I'm also the chair of the Continuum of Care for Guilford County. And so the Continuum is a membership organization made up of organizations, agencies, and others that work with homelessness in Guilford County. So we have at this moment about 67 members of the Continuum, all of them doing various jobs around homelessness, whether it's feeding them, whether it's sheltering them, whether it's mental and behavioral health, but they all represent some sector of the community or some sector of work that impacts homelessness in our community. So I believe that with our homeless situation, we were having issues before COVID came. And so we were being challenged at the very beginning, and there's always been conversation around homelessness. Years ago, and Dan is familiar with this, in High Point we were working with homelessness, and at that point when the government came out and said they wanted a 10-year plan to end homelessness, that's how we ended up with the Continuum of Care. So every community was doing their own thing. And so we came together as a continuum and said that Guilford County, in order to receive federal funding to help with homelessness and to work on that 10-year plan, had to come together as a county to deal with the issues around homelessness. So that's sort of the backdrop to how we got here.
Right, but we're talking really about how do we get this homeless, and do we have any numbers on the homeless population?
Oh, sure.
All right, let's talk about the numbers we have and how these people got to be in the situation they're in.
And that's what I'm telling you, I'm leading up to that. So when we got to COVID, the situation was further exacerbated because at that point, based on rental rates, based on a lot of decisions that were made around mental and behavioral health, that we were not taking care of these individuals like we should. So we probably have right now about 2,700 people that are on the list with our coordinated entry folks that are looking for housing. And
What is that, Guilford County or High Point?
That's all of the county.
In
So
all
we
of
don't
it?
have a disaggregated number that speaks to what's in High Point alone. So that number is not broken down that way.
You guys see the numbers similarly?
But 2,700. And so we're at a point right now where the pressures are coming from every direction. So it's around lack of affordable housing. It's around lack of rental properties for people to move into. It's about lack of economically being able to afford to pay the new rents because investors have come in and the rents are so high, people cannot afford to stay in these places. And it's around the fact that we have a lot of people mentally and behaviorally challenged that cannot live alone. They can basically not take care of themselves if they had a place to go. So we don't have the resources available to house these individuals. In High Point, in Greensboro, across the county, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I have heard a number from the Salvation Army that they claim their research says 90% of permanently homeless people have either an addiction of some sort or mental illness, and they say half are what they call, and I don't think they mean this in a pejorative way, but their term was double dippers, are both substance abusers and have mental illness. So I think we're talking about root cause. That's our main root cause, is it not? Let me pass it down to
If
you.
I can, I probably won't need.
We don't like to talk about these things, I understand, they're difficult.
Acts Ministries been working in the street with the unsheltered homelessness for about 17 years. Prior to that, I'm a retired High Point police officer. So I've been working with the homeless issue for 40 years. What Bernita said is we really don't know what came first. It's the chicken or egg. You don't know whether it was mental health issues led to addiction problems, or you don't know that addiction led to homelessness. It all could be the same thing. What we're seeing in the street with the unsheltered homeless is both. It seems, even since fentanyl hit the street, when it was either just cocaine or heroin, our experiences that it's so much mental health issues and no open door, so to speak, for them to step through in any case follow-up at that point. And it's pretty difficult to get a man or woman who's in the street living in a camp to make his appointments. And so what we've been doing is working with Partners in Homelessness and the COC for these years of trying to establish those outreach workers where we can do it. But when the answer comes down to it, it's mental health and substance abuse.
And as I understand it, well, obviously you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, the stats, that's correct, but I want to turn it.
Okay.
I want to turn it a little bit because I don't want to demonize the people that are experiencing homelessness. So at Open Door Ministries, we're very careful. We tend to not say homeless people because homeless people is already demonized. And it's true about the mental health. We do see that, and they have issues. Those that are homeless or unhoused. What we do at Open Door, we say people that are experiencing homelessness. And the reason why is because we see something different. What we have seen, especially since the pandemic, is regular people like you and I that have regular jobs. But because of the pandemic, because of situations, they don't have a place to stay.
That's right.
Or they can't pay the rent. And so
What percentage do you think are those types who have no addiction or mental health, but are just simply a victim of a really bad economy?
So this is what I'll tell you. We have 6 programs at Open Door. One of the programs we do is we feed people through our Father's table, which is our soup kitchen. We feed 3 meals a day, 5 days a week. 2 meals a day for Saturday and Sunday. What I have seen is this: 30% of those that comes every day, regular people. So we serve about 400, close to 400 people a day. And we have seen about, and I know, personally, I have seen close to 100 people during the day that comes through. Again, regular people working, you and I, but they have no place to stay.
The upside, though, is those are going to be easier solutions, it sounds like, right? Are these not, well, is it going to be as difficult as it is with people with an addiction or mental health issue? It's going to be just as difficult?
It's going to be just as difficult. See, the issue is this. These folks got into this situation because of what happened after COVID with rents and investors coming into our community, buying these properties and saying, what people used to pay $800 a month for is now $1,500 a month. And you cannot afford to pay that. So we have families that are literally sleeping in their cars every night. They go to the service station or whatever, they bathe their children and themselves, then they go to work, and then the kids go to school, and we don't see this group of individuals that are out there. And these folks have good jobs. They work at the post office, they work at the banks, they work at all of these places where you would think they should be able to afford to have a place to stay. It doesn't exist.
So it sounds like affordable housing, which isn't a mountain that can't be overcome, is the main solution for folks like that.
Well, it's housing that's affordable. We have to be careful about that term when we say affordable housing. Because for some people, affordable housing is a $400,000 home. That's affordable to some people. But we have to say housing that is affordable. And that is what we do not have in our communities. Whether it's High Point, whether it's Greensboro, it doesn't matter. The housing does not exist.
All right, before we get on the stickier issue, what is the solution for that one? Is it local government subsidy for private sector? Or is it, let's hear from some of the other folks, or is it the public simply, the government simply building this type of housing?
Okay, I guess first let's define affordable. To us, affordable housing is a household that is not paying any more than 30% of their monthly income on household expenses. So that's whether it be rent, mortgage, the mortgage, it's the property insurance taxes, all of that. As long as they are not paying more than 30% of their monthly income, then that is considered affordable. I will say that this is, and we have to, and I know we keep talking about the pandemic because everybody knows things shifted and the landscape of housing has drastically changed. And so pre-pandemic, some of the figures that we were seeing, when we talk about individuals that needed affordable housing pre-pandemic, High Point specifically had a shortage of about 13,000 affordable housing units. A shortage. We were in a deficit. And so now, since the pandemic, we know that that number has drastically increased. I don't have a specific number for that at this moment, but that is something that we are working on. The city is in the process of trying to engage a consultant to do a housing study or a housing assessment, so we can really just see what do we have specifically that is available. How many rental units do we have? What are those affordable, affordable units do we have? Just all of that, trying to get a feel for what the neighborhood or what our community actually has. So when we talk about what can be done, we know that from a city standpoint, our role, I believe, is safe to say that we would be in the position of working more with developers, with housing providers. Traditionally, cities have not been necessarily service providers, so we partner with our nonprofits and also Guilford County. So we are more we would be more in that lane of actually working with private developers to build units, provide land, provide funding. Right now, one of the things that we're working on here in High Point is establishing a housing fund, something that might be able to help developers, because one of the things that we've also seen that has affected housing is housing, the interest rates. And so that's one of the things that we don't see a lot of shift. And one of the things that I heard last week that I never really heard it phrased this way, but a lot of people are either staying in place or they're buying down. You don't find many people, if you have a house that is financed right now when rates were really low at 3%, you're not gonna go out and buy a house to upsize and if your interest rate is 6 or 7%. So a lot of the homes that may have traditionally been available to affordable households, you have those folks, they're not moving up. And so that creates this, I guess you would say, sort of like a cog in the wheel. When we talk about that
Well,
continuum.
Well, of course, we're not simply looking, I would imagine, at places for people to buy. Isn't there, it's smart to provide at least a stratum of rentable places, whether they're apartments or single-family homes, that people can be sheltered and hopefully save enough money to move up the ladder?
Right, and but it's the same issue in that rents are so high that they're having to stay in place. So
Let me
they're
make
not-
sure I understand it. So the city is indeed looking at either providing land at a discount or free to a developer and maybe having some funding to help them make their margins meet. Do we know that we have builders willing to do this?
Absolutely.
We do, so that's not a problem.
That is not a problem. But we have local builders and developers, as well as folks that are always looking or calling from out of state. A lot of it though is just that available funding to help them.
Theoretically, this would put a little pressure on all these rents to come down a little bit when some of the people looking to be in them are going to look for this. So are you saying the city has the money for this?
Not at the current moment. We are working on that. That's why I say we're working on establishing a housing fund to help developers. Another thing that I will say that I guess sort of puts High Point at a disadvantage in some cases is that we don't receive direct federal allocations or state allocations, any allocations to address homelessness. Like many of our larger cities, they receive direct allocations of whether it be emergency solutions grant funding or through the continuum of care. Agencies are receiving and cities are receiving direct allocations, and that's something that High Point does not receive. It's formula driven, primarily due to population. We're a smaller city, a smaller entitlement. We just happen to be right here in this kind of, Piedmont Triad area, right beside, we're in Winston-Salem, and right here.
Greensboro.
Next door to Greensboro. And so that is certainly an issue that we see, not being able to get those federal dollars to really help subsidize.
Anyone else want to address the issues already discussed? This is what go ahead. Please.
I'll add on, thank you. I work for Family Services in Piedmont, I need to be a little closer, which is Gilbert County's domestic violence service provider. So the clients that I work with are survivors of domestic or sexual violence primarily. So the clients that I'm seeing who are struggling with housing security or homelessness are very unlike, I think, what I've heard from you, which is not that they're people who are struggling typically with substance abuse. They're not people who, sometimes there are people who are struggling with mental illness, but it's not like they become homeless because of some choice of theirs, right? These are people who are often in danger, are holding down jobs, have kids, and are not able to afford to be away from their unsafe person.
Right, we have some organizations dedicated to that, probably not enough. All right. Is that part of the issue, is that when we look for this housing, we need to also expand what some of those organizations are doing?
I would say so. We don't have, we have 2 shelters here in Guilford County, and those are beds that are specifically for people affected by domestic violence. And to me, I don't think that the capacity is there for the population that we're working with in Guilford County. And I think I'm seeing the same problem that Lena is seeing, right, where there's just the lack of funds.
What level are we at? Half of what we need? Quarter?
I would say
you're guessing this, folks, but give us an idea.
I would say 2/3,
Okay.
maybe, we don't need to double.
So it wouldn't break the bank to hope to get where we need to.
I hope not, I'm also not the person who has to align all the books and everything.
Understood.
But that's what I want to add on, is that I'm also seeing these populations where they're in this violent situation and end up homeless because of their own safety.
Right, and there is a variety of reasons, but I think I had some nodding heads when we talked about the Salvation Army's research. And what I was getting at earlier was the people that we've just been talking about, the pandemic has ruined their finances, or they got into a bad situation with an ugly person they shouldn't have been with. Those people, on average, they're willing to walk through the door to get the help they need, as opposed to some of these others where it's difficult. I did a story about similar to this just a couple of years ago, and the figures I got from the U.S. government were this country has lost 95% of its mental health beds since the late 1950s. A couple things did, there were two major Supreme Court cases, which made it much more difficult to involuntarily
Commit.
commit them. It was in the brain of this, it's only one day. There were two cases that made it difficult, and both of them came right at the beginning of recessions, and according to some people who studied this, they said a lot of states and communities took that as a chance to say, well, we can cross off that line out there, but they needed to find ways to cut, and they're like, well, this is easy, we're not supposed to do this. So, in the short term, it maybe looked like a smart thing to do, and now it makes it really difficult to help them. So to what degree, since you guys are dealing with a lot of these folks a lot more than many of us are, I would imagine, I don't know, you may have different stories. If I had the answer, I would run for king or whatever job is open. I don't have the answers, that's why we're all here, but we'll talk about those. That's the difficult thing, getting that community, which is, we've agreed, the bulk of our homeless community, how do we get them the help they sometimes will not step up to take?
Availability of funds,
But if they won't accept the help, that's the challenge I'm getting into. All right, Dan.
What we don't want to hear is that there are some people who don't want the help. They don't want to be in the shelter. I've worked with them for decades. That's where we come in. What you're seeing is a table of folks representing organizations that are filling a need and a resource in different areas, where we're in the unsheltered business, you see, and all the way through dealing with addiction, substance abuse, mental illness, housing. It's not an easy subject to sit down for an hour and talk about. But you have to understand that there's folks, because of their mental illness. Now, we work with folks who are living in their cars. We work with the City of High Point Library of working with our folks that are coming in off the street, helping the city employees work with them, getting them the resources that are not available to them other than, say, Salvation Army or Leslie's House or Open Door Shelter. Because some of them will not go there. Some of them are satisfied with being in the camps. We don't want to hear that, but we have to recognize that. Being in the camps because they don't want to live with rules. That's right.
Right, well, see, this is
comes back to the mental illness.
Right.
And it could be PTSD. I'm a veteran.
Right.
Well, so we can understand the PTSD of not wanting to live in a building. So what we do need to do as different organizations is be available so when they do step up and say, I need help, we can offer that help, whatever help that is, without sending them to 6 or 7 different organizations.
Well, let's talk about coordination in a minute, but before we get there, is there now, do we have to go beyond just waiting until they're ready for help? Or do we as a society owe it to not just us, but them, to look at our commitment rules and say, maybe we need to commit some people who say, well, I don't want to do that today. And we may not, but
Now,
anyone want to say that?
Well, this thing around mental illness, you have to understand that where people are is where they feel the best. They're comfortable in where they are in their headspace. And so, if you're going to treat them for whatever that illness is, and the way that the law has changed so many things, now it's that, we're not gonna, we're not gonna put them in beds, we're not gonna put them in institutions, we're gonna treat them where they are. The thing is, that where they are right now is normal to them.
Right.
It is normal. And so when you start medicating and doing all those things, that's abnormal to them. And so unless you're willing to put the time and the effort in to make sure that those individuals that are in the camps and in these various places get those meds on a regular basis so that the normalcy part of that shifts, you're going to always have this problem.
Is there a way to do that, maybe? Do we need to think creatively?
There is a way to do it, but it's all of this comes down to resources and how committed we are to fixing the problem. And that's the real deal. Are we committed to do what we have to do to fix the problem? And so we're at a crossroads even right now where we're in a space where now we're finally talking. You have the county commissioners that are saying we are committed to doing what we have to do to help fix this problem. That has never happened. The county has never been involved in homelessness.
So that's encouraging.
So when you look at it and you say, what's the best way to approach this? I think you take the low-hanging fruit, and that's the individuals who are willing to be helped. Let's help them. And then let's work on it as we move through this process to help the ones that are chronically homeless. That's the people Dan's talking about, that are in the camps, that are satisfied where they are. We had a gentleman who came to us and said, we want to enter your job training program. We said, great. We got him transportation, all of that. But what he said was, I've got a tent that sleeps 10 people, and I can't leave my tent in these woods because I don't know what may happen when I come back. So he chose the tent in the woods and said, you all got to help me navigate that. So we did that too, because we wanted him in the training program. But it takes resources of people to make that happen.
Everything is trade-offs in the world. That's just, that's what adulting is about, is adjudicating trade-offs versus risk and all that stuff, and being able to do that quickly. Well, for those people who are willing to come get help, where are we missing the boat with our coordination? Because there is a whole alphabet soup of groups out there, so who wants to address the idea of how we might better coordinate to be more efficient and more effective? Not always the same thing.
We're working on it.
Yes.
Do we have some suggestions, though? Can we talk about so that people know?
Well, we're working on it. So where we are right now, even through the continuum, is that we're working through, we have it's like a four-legged stool. So now three legs of the stool are in place. So we're doing coordinated entry. We're tracking individuals with data as they come into the system and they get their assessment so we know where they are. They go on a list that's called a by name list. And on the by name list, they're pulled, they meet once a week, and they pull individuals to get them permanently or to do permanent supportive housing or to get them housed. So that's part of what we're doing. But what is happening in that space, there are many people who come to our community because they're being told that Guilford County, High Point, we're rich in resources.
Urban Ministries told me this for years, that they get buses of people, and they come here because they say they will take care of it.
We're rich in resources, so they come. So, as we're moving people, more are coming. That's part of where we are. So I think at this point, there are conversations that go on a daily basis about how we, number one, provide more housing. Number two, how do we address mental illness? So they're doing some respite care beds and things of that nature to help with the mental and substance abuse, as well as individuals who are ill, chronically ill, that need house, respite care. So we're working through all those processes, but it's going to take time because this didn't happen overnight and it can't be fixed overnight.
Is there anything to say, though, on better coordination? Does anyone have something to add about how we might coordinate better?
We don't have a lot of nonprofits. We don't have a lot of the churches involved. We don't have a lot of the individuals that are doing this work. They're still operating in silos. So the only way you can coordinate benefits is we have to all be in the boat together. Because if we're not, we're missing some components that might help us resolve the issue.
Do we have suggestions? Can we come out here too? How do we do that better?
Let us know where people are working in those spaces. We did a pink count, which is the point in time count that we do on an annual basis. Didn't know that the church that allowed us to use their facility to actually meet and schedule and all this, were actually doing the same work we were trying to do. Who knew?
How
So,
can we know that in the future? Is that something United Way can do, or
it was,
does the state deal with so many organizations, or is it something the city does?
Not necessarily, and I think one of the things is we do find that there are various groups. A lot of times we are in that same boat. We're at a meeting and we hear somebody say something, but there are a lot of things that are happening in the faith community, and I do believe that that is one area that we really need to make those connections, because we have churches and congregations that are out here doing some fantastic work, and could certainly be of assistance, and it would be of a benefit to our continuum of care. The one thing I think I will say too is that sometimes people prefer not to be part of that system because they can kind of operate independently. So we would just encourage folks that, we're good partners, and we definitely want to bring everyone to the table so that we can, address these issues in a much more coordinated way.
Would you like to see someone from the city kind of overseeing this, or someone from the private sector like United Way?
I would prefer, I think, for that to come, the United Way or the Continuum of Care. I think those would be great places for that coordination.
Maybe someone from me? We hear someone out there? No?
I want to say something.
Please.
Because one of the things that happens is every month we all, we meet with the city Continuum of Care. A lot of us partners, we meet and we talk about these issues and ways how we can combat or mitigate the situation when it comes to homelessness and also food insecurity. One of the things that I want to let everyone know is it takes the whole community. So not only do we need the government involved, we need also businesses. So we need we need public partnership, churches as well, the community. So as great as I feel to see as many people came today, at the same time I'm also disappointed there's not much more people than this.
How would private businesses, how would you like to see them contribute?
I can speak from Open Door side of it. We need funding. And because, again, we run 6 programs. And so just for example, for numbers' sake, every month it costs us $110,000 to run Open Door Ministry, to provide the services for food, shelter, housing, emergency assistance. We also house veterans. That's another thing too. So anywhere where you look at the data, between 9 to 12% every year are veterans that are homeless. And so all of that stuff that we do to help, we need funding for it. So it's a challenge because, as you know as well, since the pandemic, funding has went down. So we are really struggling to try to keep these services going, to help with the need that there is. And I believe that businesses can help because I will tell you this right now, for example, we house about 100 folks every night that are homeless. If businesses, that's 100 people that have a place to stay at our facility by itself. So that's 100 people that are not on the street, that are not at business doors sleeping overnight. So I feel that this is something where businesses can benefit. Now the good thing is we have done a great job economically with saying come to High Point, come to Guilford County, come to North Carolina. And as you all know, this is 2 years straight in a row. CNBC has said North Carolina is the #1 place to do business. We're excited. The only thing is hand in hand when it comes to economic development, you also have to have community development and then train the people to have the workforce to be able to support these businesses. And as we sit here, all of us here, including the city, that's what we want. We want to bring all this stuff together. But again, the issue is funding. The issue is being able to provide the resources from a financial standpoint so we can get these programs going and then be efficient and effective.
Austin, Dan, you want to add in on this? Haven't heard from you on that part. Anything to add?
I think I concur with what Oral is saying, and I would say that, you know, if a monetary contribution isn't possible for you or your business, I think people, and you all are doing it right now, so I thank you all, but people just getting involved in the resources and having a better understanding of what's available in your community is very important. Because oftentimes you're hearing from all of us here, we're all working with limited budgets. None of us have the budgets for an advertising team, you know, to go out and get the word out as much as we would like to. So often what we have to rely on is we have to rely on community and we have to rely on word of mouth. So it's very helpful to know the people in the space that you live in who are doing the work, and when you see somebody who is in need, then you at least know the first step to take.
We put out a lot of you. Anything you guys want to contribute before we move on? Yeah? Can't we bring this over? It's fancy listening device.
So you asked the
You
question.
don't mind identifying yourself.
I'm sorry. My name is Denise and I'm with the Housing Group, a pretty new nonprofit. So I'm listening to the things that are being said. 2 years I stayed out there in the homeless community, and I learned about the homeless community. I didn't look at charts. I was there. So it's not about mental health. You'll be surprised to know how many of them say it's a mental health issue, just so that they can get some help. So if I got to take a pill today to get somewhere to stay, give me the pill and give me the bed. That is truly the mindset. So you say that people won't come? Well, why would they come? If you see them on the street, imagine somebody standing there, they really need help. You know what we do? We're going to start with their feet, and we're going to look them all the way up. And in our mind, we determine what they need and what they don't need.
That's right.
We didn't take time out to ask questions. We don't know why they're in that position. Talking about what we need now. So, High Point has 4 wards. Ward 1, 125 people homeless. Ward 2, 266 people. Ward 3, 98. So what I'm telling you, I've done the work. I didn't go by what somebody said. I got out there. Because we could talk all day about it. But you got to get out there to know it. This paper tells me about the agenda that we're going to speak on today. That's all I know. This is an agenda. The true agenda is to be out there in the community, seeing what's needed. Don't judge, because you know what? Just like you said, the pandemic took us all down. And if we don't learn how to come together, you know, I heard you say, we don't have the resources. How do we bring it together? You know, when somebody new comes in, we're shied away, we're pushed away. But what if Ward 1 had their own group? Y'all take care of Ward 1, Ward 2 take care of 2, 3, 4, and so on. If all those groups, if we separate in 4 divisions, and you put those divisions, think about the change. What have we done? As a community, we have came together to make a difference.
Let me ask before you get up the mic. One thing you would do then, you're saying we come together to do the work. What is that we need to do?
The work is first, you know, like y'all talked about rules. People are really not afraid of your rules. It's not your rules. It is your judgment. It's your constant judgment. You don't give people a chance to say, hey, this happened to me. You look and you determine, oh, they can get a job. We have determined that, even myself, before it was me. I'm going to determine what they need from the shoes on. I'm going to determine what they need. That's what we're all doing. That's what we're doing. So we have to make ourselves more open, more accessible. They don't need people to feel sorry for them. They don't. They're not looking for pity. They're looking for help. Because it could happen to any one of us.
Yes.
It could happen to us.
That's right.
What do they usually look for?
The help they look for, well, first of all, this is the first thing that I thought about. Why doesn't High Point have a register for people that are homeless? How are you going to help them? You don't even know who's out there. Why don't we have that? You know, those people that are homeless, they probably got families, right? So in the past 2 years, I reached out and I put people back with their families. You know what? People are out here on the street and families have them listed as missing. They're not missing. They just got caught up in drugs and whatever, and they lost their way. You know how I had these families off to here? I found Bernard. I found Amy. So the thing is, we got to bring it all together. What can the family do? Do they even know? We got to make ourselves open to working together. It's not just about you. It's all of us. So I'm just saying, we got to learn to work together.
Panel want to address any of that?
Well, we do have coordinated entry and we do assessments. So we know where a lot of these folks are because they come to be assessed. And based on whether or not they can give us a permanent place that we can connect, we know who's out there, we know what the numbers are. Do we know them all? Absolutely not. Because we haven't come into contact with those individuals. So we don't know them. I agree with her when she says reconnecting folk with family members is a great way to do that. But all of that again comes down to resources. And so right now from HUD, Guilford County gets we got last year $2.7 million in funding to address shelter placement, to address coordinated entry, to address permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing. That's the money that came in. And so that is not nearly enough to address where we are. And so the more work we do, the more we work in coordination with each other, that's more money that comes into our county to assist in this process. We don't have enough agencies that we know of that are out there doing this work that can apply for the funding. The more that apply, the more funding we can receive. So that's kind of the space that we find ourselves in, you know, with community action. Again, I didn't know a darn thing about homelessness 5 years ago. I knew it existed. I knew that it was there. But in terms of the agency working with it and saying these are the things that we can do, that was not our focus. But once we got into it, we found out, look, we can help in this space. And nobody had ever come to us and said, as community action, can you help us do this work? Never happened. But once we figured out where we were all in. And I think that's the situation that occurs with a lot of these agencies that do have funds. We don't leverage our dollars. We don't look next door and say, how much does United Way have? How much does the city have? Who has this? We leverage the dollars. We can work with and maybe help 10 more people, 25 more people. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but we're headed in that direction.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to, and I'm just not sure, I'm sorry, what's your name?
D.
I'm sorry?
D.
D. I would love for you to come to Oakview Ministries because exactly what you said is what we do. Everyone that comes, we're a men's shelter. Everyone that comes in our shelter, first of all, we don't judge. And this is also including those that come to Open Door for food, right? Many of those, just number 6, just let y'all know this. Out of our food pantry, last year, beginning of last year, we were serving about 250 individuals. And what that is we give families food for a week, right? 250 individuals. Last month, 760 individuals. So what I'm trying to say, just for that by itself, what we do is we connect with people directly. We don't judge what they look like. We don't judge what they say. We go by who they are. A feel-good story going off of what you said. In our shelter itself, we have a personal one-on-one relationship with those that come in, those men that come in. And we want to know exactly who they are. We also have data on where they live, where they came from, all that stuff. There was someone that came from Myanmar. And when he came, he was dropped off at Open Door. And so we housed him. The issue was a language barrier. And we could not find anyone that can communicate with him. But we were able to find a partner that was able to help at least translate some words. And so as we were trying to help him to find a job and find out where his family was, or if, why is he here in High Point? Eventually, 6 months, we were able to find out that his brother actually lived in High Point. And so we were able to connect them. And his brother was like, wow, we thought he was missing. We could not find him. We didn't know where he was. And so we were grateful that Open Door reached out and was able to find me so that I could get with my brother. And so that's one of those things that we do. So it's out there, but again, just like Bernita said, resources is the issue, that we're experiencing.
All right, you wanna, yeah, you run over there. Get my steps into that.
My name is Joe Wiggs. I'm with Triad Food Pantry at 1311 Johnson Street. I've heard all of this. Dan and I have been plotting 20 years with homelessness. You know, he saw me the food. How can you help me? I give y'all the food you need. And we still have homeless people come by our facility, and we have a cabinet full. When the homeless come in, they know that. They have backpacks with sanitary things in them, what they need. We have clothes, not a whole lot, like underwear, and we got a big order of bumper tops. I'm a resource. That's what we do. If you need resources, Dan, Jim, you know I'm just a resource. I don't know how to solve any solutions because I know they come by there to get food every week. Knock on our door, we need some food, we're homeless. And they know to go and get it, whether it's my husband or my daughter, who's the executive director, to give food to the homeless people when they walk by. And they sleep right up the street. Dad knows the place where they sleep there on Johnson Street. But the thing about it, like Dan and I have been partnering all those years, we need to partner with other agencies the long time. And I agree with Benita and Jim. It's funded. I'm hurting right now funding myself, but I still got those homeless back to give out as long as they're good. And they constantly, with my resources I get out of Raleigh, they can fix at least 10 a week to put back in the cabinet. And that's where I am. I'm the resource in.
Anyone got anything to add to that? Yeah. Go.
I'd like to just add too, one of the things that when we talk about actually spreading out into the community, that is one thing that we are somewhat lacking in High Point, and that is street outreach or street outreach teams. A couple reasons. Funding is always an issue. Also, sometimes safety. That can be, that, you know, has been a primary issue as well. But one of the things that we are doing, and I want to make this public because I don't want anyone to think that we are trying to, well, they're already displaced, but just basically come in and take the last thing that some of these individuals have in their homeless camps. But through our local codes enforcement office, what we are doing is anytime we identify a camp, and we work to try to get that camp cleaned up because we're trying to be fair to the neighbors, to the neighborhood, but we also want to be sensitive to the needs of those individuals that are in those camps. So we are through local codes enforcement actually trying to work with property owners in cases, if there's a case that is a absentee landlord or, you know, air property or something like that. We do what we need to do to try to get it cleared. But one of the things is that we definitely don't want to criminalize these individuals because a lot of people are, you know, will just call the police and have them escorted off the property. And that's not necessary. That's not the answer. I mean, depending upon the situation, if there are issues, we may have to call the police. But what we want to try to do is connect them to those resources. So that is one way that we are trying to, because we don't have that street outreach, but at least use the city staff that we have as they are canvassing and monitoring their assigned areas, that wherever we do see those camps, that we are reaching out to those folks and we're trying to connect them with resources and to help business owners, to help communities get some of those areas cleaned up.
Well, we are a little short on time. I want to kind of have sort of a moral of the story, one thing we can all take away from here, moment that everyone can go through. Obviously, the overwhelming thing we've heard is more resources, which can mean volunteer hours, but often means dollars. Looking to the federal government for dollars could be precarious in the long run because they're drowning in debt. And probably one of the first things you're going to find in cutting is stuff like this. So it might be foolish for us to count on that long term. So I would like to go down the panel and just ask if there's one thing you would like to see change, improve, or something we're not doing, that we need to start doing, something we are doing, we need to stop doing. What is the biggest thing we can do? Because every time we take a step forward, we're getting a little better and getting a little closer. And so we do this now tonight, maybe 3 months, 6 months, we come back and we assess and do it again and keep taking those steps forward. If anyone want to start, or do we just go down the line of, so again, this is the one thing we want to take away from tonight that we can do. And like I said, everyone loves more money, so assuming that we know we're gonna go after that, but beyond that, what is it?
I think the biggest thing, and Orrell sort of mentioned this, but for us, I think getting that private sector, the private community involved, that is one of the biggest things that I think we can do. A lot of times, it may not be just money, whether it be them even assisting their employees with employee assistance type programs. I mean, there are just lots of ways that private companies can actually contribute and help when it comes to making sure that their employees have decent, safe, sanitary affordable housing. So really looking at private foundations, looking at banks, for them to also be a part of creating some of these solutions. And again, we talk about the housing fund. So at the end of the day, we definitely need money, but that private community, the private participation is something that we certainly need, and we haven't traditionally had. So.
I would say, because we talked about a lot of things, but what is most encouraging is that you all are sitting in this room, listening to what we have to say about people who are homeless. And so I think for the community to continue to be engaged in the conversation. And it's also pushing the individuals out there who are receiving dollars, making sure that they're being used in the most appropriate way for the work that has to be done, keeping in contact with your elected officials and telling them how you feel about what's going on in your community and what you would like to see happen. I think that it takes all of us to actually stay engaged in the conversation. Because when you stop talking about things, both things it goes away. So we're not talking about it, it must be okay, and we keep moving in a different direction. Mm-hmm. So I would say stay engaged, listening to what's happening. Because at the governmental level, things are moving. And so we need to make sure that we're staying in contact with our elected folks, and that we're working with these organizations such as mine that say these are the things that we're doing in the community with your dollars. These are federal dollars we get. Make sure we're using them in the right way. And challenge us to think outside the box. Throw away the box. And sometimes that's not always happening because we're so close to it, we don't see it. Mm-hmm. So that to me is the best way for us to move the needle in the situation that we have. We belong to churches. Challenge the churches to get involved.
For me, it is, let's move forward and do something. So, for 2 years, Open Door has been trying to open a day center. And this has been going on and on. Everybody knows it should happen, but we have either gotten pushback from the community or pushback from organizations. And what it is, I'm glad that we're here because people need to understand what homelessness is about and how important it is to each person. Person sitting next to you, it's important, and how it helps. And businesses, how what we're doing can help when we look to alleviate or mitigate homelessness. Now, I'm saying a day center because during the day, different things that you and I take for granted, like, brushing our teeth, taking a bath, getting our clothes clean, even charging phones. Those are things that people that are homeless doesn't have. And so the day center is going to address all of this. Now, 2 years ago, when this was brought to the table, we thought it was going to, we estimated it's going to take about $10 million to build. Well, 2 years later now, we're at 16. And we are still 2 years away. Once we find a place for the day center, it's still going to take 2 years. But what I'm saying is we have to start, let's do something. So I'm saying to say, you, the community, you need to let the elected officials know we got to do something. Be involved. We need you. We need the businesses as well. The businesses listening, watching. We need you as well to say, hey, we're going to partner with all of us here, including the city, and say, we got to make this thing happen so we can move the needle forward in finding a solution.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to continue the trend and say that civic action is extremely important. You know, voting, being active in your local politics. I think the biggest thing that I have seen change since I've entered this world, and we touched on it a little bit, is just how unaffordable housing has become. How difficult it is to rent a place, and especially to ever get into the point where you can own a space for people my age and for people of my class. I think it's extremely difficult. So I thank you all for coming out here, you know, and coming up here Monday night to be with us and to talk about this important issue and, you know, keep doing what you're doing.
I'm going to piggyback with what Orel said. It's a day center. Everything that they need as the connection and the doorway to all the resources that we've talked about happen or can happen in the day center. And being that third smallest city within the triad, we're the only one that doesn't have a day center element. And it puts us at a great disadvantage of working with our folks.
You can go to the city and say, look at what this has done in Winston and Greensboro.
Yes, and I know they've gone to make those field trips to others. There's some incredible day centers right here in North Carolina that you don't even have to travel out of state. And the business community in most of those cities help develop them when they realize that there is a solution to their problem in the retail industry and the industrial industry, that we can help manage that population for the betterment of the community as a whole. But it's got to be a day center. As Orel said, when they have to leave that shelter, they're going right to the streets. And it's more welcoming also in a day center environment for those who would not go and stay in a shelter.
What's the pushback? Just no money, or the community where you want to push it says we don't want to do that?
With my experience, and I think with their experience, is first is location, and then the finances. And it's difficult to find a location that they believe not in my backyard, and
Right.
if it's put too far from the downtown area, our folks can't walk that distance. They're sick, and they're in a lot of disadvantage. We have 3 ladies that come in the library every week on walkers. They can't walk to a day center 2 miles away. Well, if you can't walk to it, you gotta find bus sits. Well, that means bus pass. I mean, it's this huge problem, yes, but all these different resources and the dynamics of getting those resources to our folks has to have a central location that they can get to, all in one place. And that's what day centers traditionally provide, is one location, one door, one phone call away. Because it is frustrating to have to refer them to another agency, and then they get down to that other agency after they've walked that distance, all right, and then they're told to go to another agency. And that's one of the things that the day center is. So I'm going to piggyback. In all my experience, the one great thing would be is that day center.
Community, you want to add something?
Yes, and I would be remiss if I did not express to the community that this is an important issue to our elected officials. Our council member, Councilman Dr. Patrick Harmon, he is the Ward 4 representative, and he could not be here this evening because our council members are in D.C. So they had some events that were going on today and tomorrow. Otherwise, I know that he would have been here. But please do know that affordable housing, the homeless issues, these are very important issues to our elected officials. And so they're certainly looking for solutions and trying to determine what they can do
You want to add something, sir?
I just have one question. Or is there a stopgap measure somewhere between where you are now and 2 years from now with $16 million? Can we not provide some type of washing facilities or sanitary facilities? Other cities bring in portable units. We don't. We have nowhere that our homeless population can even travel and clean up and bathe. We have no washing facilities for clothes. Other cities, if they don't have the day center, they give vouchers to a laundromat. Are there not other things that we can do before we build a $16 million day center?
There is. The issue is resources. There's not a lot of it. So, for example, we're next to a washing machine.
Right, you have laundry next door.
That's correct. And so we do that when we do have a washing machine in our facility. But if there's anything extra, we do utilize them. But once again, it's just a resource thing. It's not too far from where we're at, where we can give people vouchers to go and get their clothes washed outside of where we're at. A lot of times, and Dan mentioned it, it's about how do they get there. You know what I mean? And so that's the issue. So that's why we need this day center. We need a facility that is big enough to support this community itself. And so that's why it's very important that we have that. But until you get there, you're correct. 2 years down the road, until we get there, we're doing what we can right now, and the city, like I said, is helping us. The COC is helping us to try to coordinate with different agencies to get these things done. These are normal things that you and I take for granted. But these are things that people are experiencing homelessness need.
Well, it refers to folks before that didn't happen, that's why I asked.
Okay.
We got a couple more on the phone?
I have two things. What about some of these empty furniture factories? They're just empty. Why can't y'all develop those and build buildings there and just kind of turn them into something? Little apartments? Secondly, what about churches and universities here in town? Why can't they contribute? Why can't they help? HPU?
Great.
What is all just saying?
Can I just say something about the vacant buildings? That is something that we look at quite a bit, but we have to also understand that because of the market, you have a lot of property owners that are fine with their buildings, their facilities, basically going unused 11 months out of the year.
How's that?
How is it?
Yeah, why?
They own
It's
it,
their
and
property.
it's their choice. It is their choice. That is something that when we have looked at existing buildings, vacant buildings, anything.
All right, what about some of these schools, instead of tearing the schools down, why don't you turn those into, tearing down a school, building another school, why not just turn that, the buildings there, utilize the buildings?
Wasn't there a lot of people being displaced out of their homes with the high point you could have areas? So.
I think that we need to be real about where we are, so let's get real, okay? And so, at the end of the day, I understand exactly what you're saying. It makes perfect sense that we would go in and we would use buildings that are underutilized or not used at all. Makes perfect sense. But you have to deal with the politics of things.
No.
And so, when you're looking at that, just because I see a building that's vacant doesn't mean that the owner of that building wants to sell it to me or that they want it to be used for that purpose. So when I look at this, I say, I agree with Laurel. We do need a day shelter. We need a day center. We need a place where people can go. I'm not even so much concerned about how close they are to downtown. We can bring the services to them. That's the optimum thing. Is to say, whatever it is they need, we'll bring it to wherever they are. We don't have to worry about location. But it takes the political will to do this. And we have our politicians, they're on board, they know what needs to happen. They're clear about that. The county is even clear about that. They want a day shelter in High Point, and they're doing all they can do to help make that happen. But we need to find the space. So that's why I say to you, as citizens in High Point, they need to hear your voices. Your voices have to be heard.
Couple last things.
So I know we're short on time, and I apologize, but I thank all of you for being here. Okay, I'll make it up 12. So I was born and raised in South Florida, and we we dealt with hurricanes all the time. And I would make some suggestions that we need to lean on our residents and our community, because I can tell you from personal experience that when there was a hurricane, people came out by the thousands to help. You know, we also did a food drive right before Thanksgiving. The radio station guys would do like this. They would stay up for 72 hours and they would load a bus. There would be lines wrapped around the parking lot for days with people trying to drop off food. So I feel like if we could get the information out there that we're looking for community support or even a community day. You know, we have that field at Washington Street that's such a huge space that's underutilized. If we could have like a community drive once or twice a year, you know, and bring the community out with donations and educate people and bring the homeless out and even partner with local businesses that may be willing to give jobs, small businesses that may be willing to give jobs to people that are trying to get on their feet. There may be landlords out there that are willing to give subsidized housing, you know, that just aren't aware of the situation or how they can contribute. So I would strongly say that if we lean in on our community and we ask for help and we make ourselves available, that we can make a lot of progress, a lot smaller.
Real quick, stopgap measure, at the outdoor festivals, they have the pump operated things for the hand washing and whatnot. You can put one of those at every library, every church, every park. Okay, 3 months out, 3 seasons out of the year, not the winter time, obviously, but that would help brush your teeth, wash your face, wash your hair. I'm in the Scouts for years, and I wash my hair in front of people. I don't care. So maybe somebody else is not going to go there. I don't know. The other thing would be talk to the Baptist men. They have some beautiful trailers with showers, toilets, all that. They take them. They go somewhere. They to the disaster area and come back. We get the city to sponsor something like that and take it to the library this week.
Yeah.
And City Hall next week.
Yeah.
Could I have a regular schedule for that?
Could I answer the one about the wash station?
Go for it.
And Patrick Carmen put out numerous of those units. They became a problem because the guys and gals were sleeping in the mobile toters, the latrines, and they were trashing the hand wash.
I don't mean a porta potty. I mean the thing that sits there, that's out in the air, that you pump and you wash your hands.
Right. He put those out. He did
that.
fund that. So we did try that. He did. And what he did is he asked us where the best locations were, and he put them out there for a time. But then they got vandalized. You can't police and you can't watch those things. And the Porta Johns, they ended up sleeping quarters.
You can't do anything.
Yeah, so it was tried.
Okay.
So a lot of the ideas that we've had like that, even the Baptist men's bringing in their trucks and stuff like that, it's going to be a temporary thing. What Garth was talking about is...
The city would build one and sponsor it.
Yeah.
And have a regular route for that.
We did right.
Over here.
So the one thing to address your question on the end, this community is fantastic when you have a crisis. Open Door had a crisis about 2 years ago. Plumbing went out, the community comes out. During COVID, we had to shut down for 14 days because our entire kitchen staff got COVID. The community came out in an unbelievable crisis. People show up. It's what are you doing on a random Tuesday when you got to have somebody that needs to wash their hair, wash their clothes, charge their cell phone? Those daily things that nobody in this room has to deal with as a crisis is a crisis to somebody on the street. So how do you address that? And that's where the day center will come in. But it's getting people to go. Everybody, I think everybody in this city is going to say, yes, the day center's needed, as long as it's not around me.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you get everybody to go, okay, here's the need. Let's find a place. Let's get together as a group. Nina's been fantastic working with her in the city. Me and Orel work together. So, and I've worked closely with Dan. I mean, we all get together and talk about how can we make this happen? How can we make this vision a reality? But it's going to take a community, and I look around here, there's less than 50 people from the community here, which I appreciate the people that come, but there should be 350 people here. So the next time we have a meeting, to his point, you come back in 3 months and address it and go, what do we do to move the ball forward? Well, next month, if we can have, if everybody here brings a friend with them, we'll have 100. That's what's going to take to move this forward and to get people out of these situations that they're currently in.
I do have a call to action, and you're stealing some of my thunder there. So well done. Got one more question over here, and then I think I'll do the call to action, and we'll see if we can talk.
I just got a quick, where did all the people from Daniel Brooks go? What happened to them?
Daniel Brooks was a housing project, I guess.
It was a housing
Right. Those
community.
individuals did have to be relocated, but that was a project with the High Point, the Housing Authority of the City of High Point. So the city, we did not directly assist with any of that relocation. So that certainly is something that would have to be addressed by the Housing Authority.
How come it's taking so long to rebuild?
Oh, they're underway. Have you been there recently?
Some of the stuff I go by there about once or twice.
Yeah. Some of it was
That was
relocation.
a place right by High Point University?
Yeah.
Same building, they're not.
Well, there's been some bit of an issue lately, I would say, with building. But it's a good question, remember, who's building it? A private developer?
Yes, private developer. The
From that
Housing
name,
Authority
I've
is partnering with a private developer. And, but relocation, to your point, as far as some of the delays, there was some difficulty in finding places for residents to go. So the relocation did take a little bit longer than they probably initially anticipated.
Now that Sam Carr's here, I'm going to start over. We're going to start the whole meeting over. You got something you want to answer?
I got a quick question. When the developer finished doing the apartments, you're going to bring the people back, or are they going to be fresh people going in?
Talk about that development by High Point.
Right, that will be the resident's choice. Some people will return, some will not. But
We know if there's an option for them to return, or right, first refusal type thing? Because there'll be a higher price, right, like we were talking about, the stuff
There's
that's
still going to be
replaced.
there's still going to be public housing
Okay.
units, and they are going to be affordable units. So it's still going to be affordable housing.
Maybe a model for what we can do elsewhere in the city, if it works well.
Well, this has already been done. Park Terrace was one example. That was before my time here in High Point, but I believe that was the old Clara Cox.
Spring Park Meadows, yeah.
Right, so it's been done before, and again, it's up to those.
Okay, do you think we have one more? We're going to try to end it here after this one, just because we'll be here all night if we got to. Go ahead.
One of the solutions we have, work at Leslie's house.
What's
And
this
I'm
one
the
supposed to
shelter
go?
manager, the director of Leslie's house. During the winter, for 4 months, we open in addition, so we double the capacity for the winter and overflow. But where we're running into a problem is finding houses that are going to be in the shelter for 4 months, where we can't repopulate them back into the house. And now we're running into the same barrier, where we have to pay 3 times the rent. Well, we have people on fixed income. They can't even accommodate or even apply for a facility that says you have, but the rent is reasonable. You rent a place for $675 a month, but you have to make 3 times that amount in order to be into that. And that's the barrier that we're running into. She can afford the rent because her monthly income can compensate. But because she doesn't have 3 times that amount for the month, she can't move in.
Let's talk about it.
And one last question I had from the audience, just as a resource information, they wanted to know, where can they call if they need assistance, where they need to assist someone? Is there a website to go to, and is there a phone number?
Well, right now, I don't know how many people know this, but we're doing emergency hotel stays for individuals that are homeless. They have to come, we're requesting that they come, they don't have to come, but we're requesting that they come with case management, because we're not able to provide the case management. But we are providing up to 28-day stays for individuals who are on the street, they're homeless, and they need someplace to go. And so this program has been in effect since December the 5th, I want to say. So the county and both municipalities are involved in this. So they funded this program.
So what we were trying to do was make sure that people were not out in the cold during the winter. And so there's still funding available. We're still working with this program. If they're already working with an agency, they need to contact whoever they're working with that agency as a referral to us. And the agency knows what to do.
All right, let me close with this idea, because we often do these things and we go off in our own separate ways and it's forgotten until the next time. I'm sure many of you out here know many of the people up here. Even if you do, I'm going to ask that as we end here, you spend some time with each one of these, or as many of them as you don't know really well, and see where you can connect. See what volunteer opportunity you can have. Maybe it's not you that can do this opportunity. Maybe they'll tell you about something and you'll think, yes, I know that person would be perfect to help with this. So then, if each one of you can sort of recruit one more person to get involved somehow, even if it's small to start, then we've just doubled what we can do. And then we have another meeting 3-6 months down the road. We'll do the same thing, try to double it again. So tonight, if you will spend some time talking to all these people, you might be surprised at things you don't know that are out there available for you to help with, or that they need, and they may not know some of the skills and resources you all have. So if you'll spend a few minutes at the end of this now talking to everyone, I think that would go a long way to setting up the next time we get together.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's come out this evening. My name is Janet Riley-Wright. I'm with the African American Initiative. Thank you to our panel. You've done an excellent job. We have been at a lot of spaces and places trying to solve an issue. And like it was stated by Mr. Buckley, it will not be solved in one incident. That will not happen. But I do challenge everybody in this room to not think that we were talking about just the people with mental illness, or just people with substance abuse, or just people who have been in domestic violence. But I challenge everybody to think that it could be you. Just in case we all forgot, just in case we think it can't be, it could be you. So when we're making plans and thinking about other people, I hope that each of us take this opportunity to think that it could be me. What does it make me? What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my life changed? Mental illness is not for some, it's for any one of us. Just like our bodies get sick, so do our minds. So I don't want us to walk away from here thinking we were talking about those people. We're talking about us. Any one of us on any given day. I thank you so much for your time and your heart and the fact that you're here. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you again. All right. Guess we'll stand adjourned, and thank you, Fox 8, for joining us and our local newspaper, High Point and Cross. Thank you for covering this. We appreciate you all.
Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I know we can.
Thank you.
Oh, man. And I was just thinking when I saw you.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Oh, Miss Josie.
I still want Nefertiti.
I'll have to go find you one.
Okay.
I'll go look for you one.
That's a good thing. I want to see
Yeah, I just don't want people to forget. We ain't talking about them. We're talking about all of
from the
us.
city. I don't know her.
Okay, scoot up there. She's a real friendly lady. Scoot on up there. So she don't get away without you. Thank you, James. Community working together. Here we go.